Water quality is critical for the production of fresh fruits and vegetables. Water use spans throughout the entire farm, from irrigation, nutrient and pesticide application, availability of drinking water and running water for hand washing, to the final wash water used on produce before packing and sending off to markets for consumer purchase. Agricultural water, specifically defined for our purposes as irrigation and wash water, can become contaminated in a variety of ways and can effectively serve as a vehicle for foodborne pathogens to spread. Because water quality conditions can change rapidly, taking preventative steps like monitoring, maintenance, and treatment of water is important to reduce the potential magnitude that a water-related outbreak can cause on the farm. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, water-related outbreaks have become one of the most significant and critical issues we face with fresh produce safety. Water can be easily compromised, and contaminated water is considered one of the leading causes of foodborne illnesses. The most common source of water contamination is from human or animal feces. As such, it is vital to have policies and procedures in place that include water quality and other farm activities that can affect water contamination, such as your sanitation practices and worker health and hygiene resources, in order to broadly address potential contamination prevention on your farm. The source of water that is used during irrigation and in the pack house can determine the contamination risk. The best practice is to have any water that will be in contact with the produce surface being of drinking water quality. This is otherwise known as potable water. Municipal or city water, which is regulated to provide potable water, has much less risk of contamination than private wells. Open water sources like ponds and streams represent the highest risk due to the limited ability to control access and consequently the potential for contamination. The method in which plants are irrigated can also affect risks. Methods which limit direct water contact with edible produce surface, like drip irrigation, are best. If overhead irrigation is only available, making sure that the water source is free of pathogens is essential. Using devices like backflow preventers, visual and maintenance schedules to check on irrigation equipment can limit the chance for contamination to spread to larger bodies of water. Training should be given to workers on water quality monitoring techniques as well as providing a schedule to follow. If doing microbial testing, the use of external accredited labs is recommended rather than performing these tests on the farm. The use of indicator organisms like generic E. coli should be used to give measurable test results of the current conditions and give the ability to track your food safety program. Finally, a plan needs to be in place for the proper disposal of dump tank water, as this is considered wastewater, either by obtaining permits from the North Carolina Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or NCDNR, if you planned on land application, or by disposal and containment in your own land retention pond. As workers, you will have many opportunities to be responsible for the proper application and possible disposal of water on the farm. As water represents a critical area for potential contamination, not following management's procedures that deal with water could potentially cause illness for you and other families. For instance, not following schedules for taking or recording water quality testing results at specific times can become problematic. Whole shipments of produce may be shipped before contamination is found. Ignoring the cleaning and sanitizing of dump tanks prior to use or not correctly hooking up backflow preventers can leave water resources vulnerable to entry of pathogens that are responsible for illnesses. Monitoring water quality through the testing and recording of pH levels, temperature, and any chemical levels like chlorine if added to wash water on a regular basis can ensure identification of any negative changes. A testing schedule should be set by management, but as workers, you will need to monitor the amount of debris and produce coming through the dump tank and adjust the schedule hourly if needed. The use of test strips is quick, effective, and affordable for measuring the presence of chlorine in water. You should be sure to measure the amount of available or free chlorine, as this is the amount that will be doing the work. Management should give you a protocol to follow when collecting microbial tests for external labs. You will need to document that these tests were sent out. You may be asked to take multiple microbial tests throughout the growing season to better enable identification of problems and allow for water quality changes during the season. Equally important is the documentation of these test results, as well as any corrective procedures that are put in place by management to protect water quality. In order to protect produce from contamination in the dump tank, your management may decide to follow a wash water protocol that adds chemicals, the most common being chlorine. A generally accepted recommendation to follow is to maintain chlorine levels between 100 to 150 parts per million, with a pH level between 6.5 and 7.5. Draining the dump tanks should be done daily and refilled with clean, potable water. The wash lines should also use potable water. Monitoring any cleaning screens in the dump tanks are useful to help with removal of large debris and help in maintaining chlorine levels. Having water quality standard policies and procedures in place can help minimize water's role in produce-related illnesses. Each member of the farm has a responsibility to follow these procedures, using monitoring and documentation tools to guide responses to the changes in water quality that might indicate contamination.